Shakumako Habibi, your boy Taif here, back with another episode. And man, today I have some amazing guest with me. He is an anthropologist, a lawyer, a businessman, and a writer, an incredible storyteller. I can't wait to introduce him to where is he? Myles, Ammo.
Yeah.
Where you are? Oh, come on over.
I was lying down reading. I'm sorry, I was reading. I like to read.
So happy we are doing this, Myles. It's great that you're here and to have you in DC.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Do you want to tell our Habibis just a little bit about who Myles Hopper is?
Well, I'm actually a little shy about it.
Okay. Don't
But
shy.
who I am, more than anything else, is Type's friend. Type is very close with our daughter Caroline, and my wife Catherine and I are here visiting with them right
great
now,
to have you.
taking over their apartment, but having fun cooking and having good wine and especially really good coffee. And
Speaking of coffee, do you want some Turkish coffee? That sounds really good.
only
right
if
now.
you make it,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would love it.
Let's do it.
I love it.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Let's go make some. Here you go, sir.
Oh, thank you.
That's good. That's
That
really
is
good.
really wonderful.
Do you like it?
Well, of course, but what I really love is that flavor of the cardamom.
Yep.
Without that, it would be good coffee, but it wouldn't be what we're talking
Absolutely.
know-
Saha.
about. Saha.
Yeah.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
Mm.
I was a young man, 20 years old.
Okay.
It was the winter of 1963, beginning of 1964 when I turned 21. And I was living in Israel and working in an agricultural commune, a kibbutz in the Jordan Valley, just south of the Sea of Galilee.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some wheat fields that were actually up in the Galilee. And for a period of a few days, 3 other men and I from the kibbutz would drive there every morning up into the Galilee from the valley and work in the wheat fields. But anyway, back to the coffee.
Yeah.
On our last day of work, a Palestinian man who lived nearby in a small house, a little bit away from the field, came to us and asked, he had been watching us for several days,
Yeah.
and he asked if we would like to come to his home at the end of the workday and have coffee.
Mm.
He had a very modest home, maybe 2 rooms. And I remember the one room we were in was dark, had no furniture in it. The light was coming from 1 or 2 small windows. And I remember the floor as a packed, clean dirt floor. It might have been concrete, but I remember it,
Yeah.
maybe romantically, but I remember it as a packed, clean, swept dirt floor. And all that was in there was a little Primus kerosene burner, not a big stove, but
I
just a little,
remember it.
like a camping.
I remember
little
those,
camping,
yeah.
but 1 burner.
Yeah.
And it had a coffee pot that you and I both know Bedouin would use,
Yeah.
with the long spout,
Yeah.
beautiful handle. And
I bet you it was beat up, huh?
it was so beat up that there were thousands and thousands of pots of coffee
I
that
love
had been
that.
made in there.
I love that.
Anyhow, there's no furniture and we were all squatting. But what we were doing is squatting in a circle while he was brewing the coffee. And the room just filled with the aroma of cardamom and coffee, and he stirred in, of course, a lot of sugar. And we each had one of these little cups.
That's absolutely amazing.
And we were sitting there smoking cigarettes that all of us were carrying.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is we were speaking in Hebrew, which he spoke, and we were smoking cigarettes and drinking the coffee. And the cigarettes were known in Israel. They were called, translated into English, forget-me-nots. Because if you stopped puffing on them, the tobacco was so horrible, they would go out. You'd have to light them again. But the beautiful thing is we were sharing with him the cigarettes and the coffee. And I remember this, it's never changed. And this was 55 years ago.
Yeah.
55 years ago. And that cup of coffee was not a cup of coffee. It was an invitation from this man, a gracious invitation to enter his life.
So amazing.
But it was the
That's
coffee
so cool.
in the culture
Yeah,
that made that invitation
Yeah.
real.
absolutely.
And it was the sharing of the cigarettes that was part of that.
This is exactly why I made We the Habibis. You know, the idea of, you know, you can have a conversation with someone else and just share so much with what you eat and what you drink, and just get to know these people even though if you've never met them before.
What was important, we didn't know we were going to be invited,
Right.
so we brought nothing. All we had
Your
were cigarettes. And he had no cigarettes.
Yeah.
And so we were...
But he had the coffee.
He had the coffee, we had the cigarettes, and I can tell you that something happened to me. It was really very important. Here I was sitting with Israeli friends, talking with a Palestinian, and I felt so identified with him in terms of the welcome he extended to us and some of the things that I know that he must have gone through over the years. It was just a remarkable experience about entering another culture. And the story that I wrote, it's 1 year, 4 cups of coffee. And that was the first cup. The other 3 were about some different experiences.
In different cities.
Different areas.
Yeah.
But nothing compared to this in terms of the power of the experience.
I'm so happy that this small little cup can remind you of that.
And that's the cups we have. They only hold an ounce or so.
But it's so good. And you know, for you guys, you can read all of Myles's stories on his website, which is myleshopper.com. You can read this story among many other stories that he has published. Another thing that I just wanted to comment on so it was 2 Israeli friends? 3 Israeli friends.
Yeah, so there were 5 of us in the room.
1 American. So 3 Israelis,
So 3 Israelis,
1 American and 1 Palestinian.
And 1 Palestinian.
And you all sat down in a little space.
Yes.
And you shared coffee and smoked cigarettes. I mean,
Yes.
that is my channel and my website. I don't want them to ever be political or to express any political opinions.
Absolutely.
But that kind of combination, that environment that you just described, I feel like is exactly what we need today. I personally want to learn more about what inspired you to create MylesHopper.com and to get into writing
Oh, that's interesting.
these stories.
I had started writing much, much earlier. And I had published some academic things, but I'm talking about creative nonfiction writing,
Sure.
memoir-oriented, but going beyond myself to those themes we were talking about. The first story I wrote had to do with something that had occurred in my family. And I showed it to a writer who was already highly successful novelist published, and he agreed to read it. I wanted to know what he thought. And we met, and he said, look, this is good, and I encourage you to keep writing. And I remember what I said to him. I said, thank you, David, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I put that story away in a file. 25 years later, I reopened that file, revised the story a little bit, and it wound up being published. And I never stopped writing since the day I started rewriting that story, which was 3.5, 4 years ago.
Great. Well, Myles, thanks again for joining us. I'm so happy
really
to
my pleasure.
share the coffee and learn
Thank you.
about these amazing stories. Again, make sure you check MylesHopper.com and read and share his the great things that he's been writing
Thanks
about.
for saying that, but my last question is there any more coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's make some more.